everybody. This is Jackie's Hand of Horror, and I'm Jackey Neyman Jones, your host. Well, I've got my co-host with me today, Tanya Atomic.
Hello.
And Rachel Jackson, one of our other co-hosts.
Hi there.
And Rachel's here especially today because this is a very special show on the subject of puppets. Today on our movie trailer review, we're reviewing Puppet Master, a 1989 film. So,
what I found interesting watching the trailer is how much older the movie looks. Like, video has gotten so good now that this movie looked to me like it was made in the 70s or something, just film quality-wise. I thought that was funny.
That's true, yeah. So what do you think, Tanya?
I thought it was a really good trailer because it was nonstop action, and the things that they were saying really got me intrigued, and there were so many, like, WTF moments.
Yes.
That I was like, I have to see this. This looks crazy.
Yeah, I totally want to watch the movie now, and that is absolutely the sign of a good trailer.
What was that line he said?
He said, metaphysically, I've killed myself.
Yes.
Metaphysically speaking, I've killed myself.
Metaphysically speaking, I've killed myself.
What does that even mean? I guess we have to watch the movie.
Wow. Well, I kind of want to see it. I actually, even though this was made in, 2010?
No, 1989.
Oh, 1989.
2010 was when it was posted on YouTube.
Oh.
Thank you, YouTube.
Oh, it took them a while. Well, I think you should see it. I'm going to go see it. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So another thing I liked about this trailer is that you see plenty of puppets. You know that a lot of horror movie trailers kind of tease you by not showing you much of the bad guy.
Yes.
You see plenty of the bad guy in this trailer.
And the other thing is it doesn't ruin it, because some movies, the imagination is better.
True.
But for this one, the puppets are so weird.
They are so weird.
It's so cool.
Oh,
and they all have their own different personality. It really lends to actually seeing them, and seeing them in action is better.
So which puppet do you find the scariest?
Leech Woman.
Leech Woman.
For me,
or the grossest.
Yeah, well, definitely the grossest. For me, scariest would be either Leech Woman or Blade. Blade's face. Because I'm looking at a little picture of it here right now.
It's like a skull almost.
Yeah, it's so chiseled and creepy looking.
Yeah, but what about the guy with the drill head?
I actually didn't find him that scary.
Oh. I might be afraid to.
Well, I just wonder what he's going to do with that,
you
know? Yeah, like sharp Legos.
Yeah. So the least scary puppet to me was the Jester, just because I still have no idea what he does.
He wasn't doing anything.
No, his head was
spins, yeah.
Yeah, I guess he makes you dizzy, and then you fall into one of the other evil puppets.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I'm too dizzy.
So yeah, if one of you had to attack me, send Jester, because I have no idea what's actually the problem there.
So I think in general, we're saying that, yeah, watch it. I mean, why not?
Yeah, this trailer makes us want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
This is absolutely what it should be doing.
Crazy. Watch the trailer.
It's great.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, Puppet Master.
I give it 5 fingers.
Well, we just watched a trailer review for Puppet Killer, a brand new film. What do you think?
Right off the bat, what I'm liking about this is that it's a Christmas horror film. So I will be able to make my in-laws watch this, which will be very, very fun for me.
Fun for you.
Yes.
Merry Christmas,
Also,
Rachel.
it has puppets. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. What do you, I mean, go ahead, Tanya.
I liked the dark humor aspect of it. I mean, I found it, the little clips were so funny, and the fact that the puppet was kind of Muppety and cute,
Yes.
I think really added a lot, and I think it'll make it just that humor, that dark, creepy
I
humor
agree.
even better.
Yeah, the puppet was adorable, and the acting was really good. It was beautiful. Just viewing it, it was filmed very nicely, and I liked it. I thought that there was a lot of humor in it, a lot of poking fun at itself, but it looked to be really well done. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it has a cabin in the woods sort of vibe, and I assume that's very, very much on purpose. Is that, you know, you've lined up that we're going in a van to an isolated cabin, and here's your stoner, and here's the chick that just wants to chill, and
it's using common horror tropes to its advantage to add to the humor, I think.
Yeah,
That's what I saw, that it was really intentionally pointed at these things. No mistake. You know, there was some probably a lot of very subtle nods to particular films that I'm not even familiar with, but a lot of other people would be. But I think that even if you're not familiar with these other films, that this is a movie you would enjoy.
Oh yeah, I think it's I mean, you know, hard to say without seeing it, but it seems like it will bring other people in, whether they're horror movie trope fans or not. Trigger warning for anyone who goes to puppet camp. You know, just have a blankie with you when you're watching this. I think it might bring up some deep, dark feelings. Yeah.
Good point.
I shouldn't say more about that.
Well, maybe we'll get into that or some of these things more on this episode today. We'll see.
So I know we have to watch this movie because we're friends with the filmmaker, but how would we rate this?
I would definitely see it. Especially the fuzzy, cute, pink Muppety puppet killer already has me. And I think some of the actors, you know, seem kind of charming and seems like a fun watch.
Yeah, the lead actor especially, I'm really curious about him. He looks like he's got a lot of depth and he's got a lot of inner humor, and I've never seen him before. I've never seen any of these actors, so I look forward to seeing what they do, and definitely gonna see this.
Yeah, I actually feel like he's a slightly unusual choice to be the center of the story. As far as like physically, I would call this type sort of jockey. So it's neat to see that sort of as the person at the center. But I would definitely see this even if I didn't know the filmmaker.
Great. Well, we're all in agreement on that one.
Woohoo!
Woo! Okay. Today on our Dark Arts segment, we're talking to Rachel, and she's going to tell us how to make a simple practice puppet. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her business, too, so you get to know who she is. Here you go, Rachel.
Cool. So one of the things I do with my puppet company, which is Vox Fabuli Puppets, which is a name I made up, by the way, is I teach classes in puppeteering to adults. And it's actually one of my favorite things I do because I would like to rid the world of bad puppeteering as much as possible. That's my mission. So when people are starting out as puppeteers, there are two things that are kind of important. One is that they can see what they're doing. They can see how their hand is moving. And the second thing is that you need to practice. So I created this, I don't think I invented it. I think I saw one somewhere and I figured out how to build my own. It's a practice puppet, and it's great because it lets you see your hand and is really light so you can take it anywhere. And you should, once you make one based on these instructions, you should take it out into the world with you. You will make lots and lots of friends. Or lots and lots of enemies, depending on what you do with the puppet. And I'm not responsible for that. So anywho, let's get going. What do you need to make a practice puppet? You need 2 ping pong balls, any color you like. I usually go with white, but there are also the nice glow-in-the-dark ones that are worth your consideration. 1/2-inch elastic. Could you use slightly wider elastic? Absolutely you can, if that's what you have. Just be careful not to get too wide, because if you get wider than your ping pong balls, it's going to look kind of weird. I personally prefer knitted elastic because it's a little softer on your hand. Braided elastic, kind of tough. But again, you know, you do you. You need a hot glue gun and hot glue sticks to go into the hot glue gun. Could you use other glue? You could, but it slows down the process so much. So I'd really, really urge you towards hot glue here. Felt dots, the sort of things that you put on the underside of lamps so that they don't scratch up your tabletops. These are not required, but they look really cool. And they're easier than trying to make a perfect circle yourself with a marker. It's really hard to do. So just, yeah, get some felt dots. And then optional feathers. They add a little floofiness to your puppet, some motion, some prettiness. They make them all a little different. So I like them. I also have a lot of feathers because I'm a puppeteer, and a puppeteer is another word for craft hoarder, basically. I'm like, I know that I live in the city where the production company for hoarders is based, and so I live in constant fear of them showing up in my yard. Yeah, don't call them on me. I'll find you. Anywho, so what you do basically is you get your hot glue gun, hot, and yeah, safety tip, hot glue is hot. Okay, moving along. If you are not responsible, have someone, supervise you while you're doing this craft. Plug in your hot glue gun long enough to get it hot, and you take the 2 ping pong balls and you stick them together with a little dab of hot glue. Hot ping pong balls frequently have little labels printed on them. Now, if you are super anal, you can get some really fine grain sandpaper and sand those off, or you can just glue them together so that they're hidden on the inside of the puppet, and that's what I personally do. I am not an anal retentive puppet builder, by the way. Then what you do is you take your 1/2-inch wide elastic and you measure out about 6¼ inches of this. This is if you're making this for an adult. I don't make these for children. I have no idea what size of elastic you need for children. To try it at home, I assume it would be a little bit less than 6¼ inches. But yeah, for grown-up hands, cut off 6¼ inches of your elastic, and then make a little loop and glue the ends of the loop together. Again, you have to overlap a little bit to do that. Don't get your fingers in the hot glue. It hurts. Okay, great. Then you have 2 ping pong balls stuck together in a highly suggestive fashion, and you have an elastic loop. And what you want to do is glue the loop to the ping pong balls against the seam. Use a lot. Be really, really generous with your hot glue here, because this is the biggest tension point in your finished puppet. And kind of poke I'm doing hand motions here. You can't see those. You poke the elastic loop kind of into the crack between the 2 balls. I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old. Yes. Okay, once that dries, you put, actually I put the feathers on next, personally, because I like to do the pupils last. So you just pick a feather or 2 that you like and glue them to the back of your puppet. And then you put the felt dots on last, and those are the pupils. And there you have a very nice, light, and adorable practice puppet. I have some sitting out in my car. I should have brought one in to show you, but I guess you'll have to watch my video. Hey, do you find crafting hard to follow if you can't see it? That's okay. I have a video where I go through this exact same process. It's out on my YouTube channel, which is Vox Fabuli Puppets. Pretty darn easy to find. And anyway, that's how I make a practice puppet.
Thanks, Rachel. That's great. I want to make a practice puppet now. So, all of this will be in our show notes, too. You'll find the links there to make a puppet. And when you do, please post them on our Facebook page. We would love to see your puppets. So today's interview on Jackie's Hand at Horror podcast is with Mike Senna. And before I introduce him, I just have to say that we've already been through this at his house last week. We had a really great interview, and this is my very first interview on my podcast. And apparently I missed hitting a button, and none of it recorded. So now tonight we're actually sitting in a dark parking lot, and we're going to do our interview now. So Mike, just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, Jackey, I'm honored to be your first guest, first of all. And what I do is basically create robots or remote control puppets and puppeteer them for events and kids.
You do, but the types of puppets that you do are just, well, today in pop culture, everybody knows what these are. R2D2,
Wally. And, well, I've got a mouse droid plus a BB-8 as well.
BB-8. Oh, wait. Before we go any further, didn't you do a commercial?
Yes, there was a commercial that we did before The Force Awakens came out. And it was for,
Is it Verizon?
No. It was for O2. It's a cellular service in Europe.
Oh, okay.
And this was when, actually, it was pretty iconic. It was when BB-8 met C-3PO and R2-D2 for the first time.
Yeah.
But yes, my BB-8 was in that commercial.
Now that's so cool because, you've been doing this for a while. This isn't your job. I mean, you have a full-time job.
Yeah, and I love that job. I program for a biometrics company. We do fingerprint systems for law enforcement. It's so rewarding to do that job.
Yeah, you do. We could have a whole interview just on what you do in your job, so I don't want to get too sidetracked, but the things that you do for law enforcement and the things you do for security and for this country your company is just pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And then, so how do you have time to do these other things? In your side time, you create robots.
Yeah, as soon as I get home and I just start on my true passion. And don't forget, these kids and adults, your job is what makes you money. Your passion, the job allows you to have your passion and continue your passion. So I work hard at my job so that I have the money and the resources to create what I really enjoy.
That's right, because we were talking, and I had always thought of what you did more like robotics, but then it occurred to me what you do is really modern day puppetry, and you've said that it's a different type of puppetry.
Yeah, what I didn't realize before is I concentrate on building the animatronics, I do everything from scratch, most of it, like for the Wally, for instance, all that stuff, everything that I'm looking at, the movement has to be perfect. The movement has to portray the character.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it on the mechanics side, where it has to move a certain way, it has to move a certain speed. And if it doesn't do that, and if it doesn't look like a living thing, then I redesign. And I've done that many times. But in the end, I look at it as a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I realize it's actually a puppeteering thing, which I have to create the mechanics in order to puppeteer the thing properly.
Well, because you bring a personality to it. There's one thing to create a robot that moves, but to give it that personality that engages people, because I was at your house when you had Wally there, and I engaged with him, and you were standing there. I know that this thing is not a living, breathing creature, and yet I could not help but be charmed by him.
Yeah, and that's how I know I'm successful, actually. I'm in a crowd, somebody will look for me. They'll find me just because they want to say, usually, like, well, I love what you've done here, or something like that.
Yeah.
They're really the people that get engaged. But anyways, they talk to me a little bit, and they're watching Wally. They talk to me a little bit, and I know when I get them, when they start ignoring me and start reacting to Wally.
Yeah.
So all their attention focuses on Wally, and all the reactions I'm getting are from when I'm puppeteering. So and they completely forget I'm there.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, there's a lot of people that do what you do. Not like a lot of people. It's a very specific thing. but you have a reputation amongst people that do these things. I've been to a couple of events where I've mentioned my friend Mike Senna to these people that have their robots, their their R2s there, and and I've actually gotten some kind of envious looks, like, yeah, we've heard of him. So, I know, but it's true. And you just got to tell my audience here what kind of events that you've been able to participate in because of this amazing hobby of yours.
Well, first, I'm not about one-upping people or trying to one-up people.
Wait, I gotta stop it.
What?
Absolutely, I know that. You're one of the most humble people I know, and I see that if it weren't dark, because we're in a dark car in a parking lot, you'd be blushing. But, you do have a reputation, but tell us about some of these things you've done.
Well, we've done, I think the maximum biggest thing we've done is the Oscars in 2016.
Wow.
I performed R2 on stage, and it was incredible. We had a weekend of Oscars rehearsals and backstage and being exposed to all that stuff. Never in my lifetime would I have guessed that we could have gone to such heights.
And your wife was there with you the whole time.
Yes, absolutely.
Who's here now? Say hi, Amy.
Hello.
Yeah, and it was super fun, and it was. I mean, we've had many other high-profile types of events that we've done, and I think it's due to the puppeteering and and equally the mechanics, the reliability of the mechanics that's behind it.
Well, that's because of your work. Your dedication to being precise. I've seen your things. They're amazing. I mean, we had a conversation at your home last week, and I'll be sharing the photographs that we took, but like Wall-E, people have to understand that was an animated character, and we talked about how you recreated it from an animated film, and that's just incredible. I mean, talking about scale and...
Yeah, that's a whole other interview. It's the cartoon changes scale, the parts and the pieces. For instance, the cockroach changes scale when he goes into a Twinkie versus when he's following Wall-E around. When Wall-E's treads go inside of his body, the treads shrink in order to fit into his body.
Wow.
So in animation, they can do a lot of things. Or if he's in a different scene, they want to look smaller, or they want it to look larger in another scene. So you have to pick your size, basically, that looks physically good in the real world, and just go with that. And then, just make him look and react as the character would if he was real.
I just think the whole thing is fascinating. And like I said, had not thought of things like this as being puppeteering, but I get it. It totally is. And then to wrap this up, I just want to say that especially in the beginning, you're, and now, I mean, always, you're really all about inspiring people and educating kids. You've done a lot of public events like libraries and... Yes,
we do a lot of talks at libraries. My thing is, follow your passion. Take your passion to the maximum limit that you can. Even if you don't follow it, it's even if it's a whim, or if it's a phase in your life, follow that phase. Learn as much as you can about it. You may move on to something else. Who cares?
Yeah.
You're going to learn so much. Pass the knowledge on to the same people that are just as passionate about what you are passionate in. And what will happen is you'll become the expert in the thing that you're doing. You'll pass that knowledge along, and the people that are just starting to realize their passion in the same subject will feed off of you. And it'll grow and it'll grow and it'll grow. It only becomes good. Share what you know, share your knowledge, and that's what I'm all about. And that's what I tell the kids to do. Plus, the other thing I really harp on is the failure thing. I mean, I tell them I've failed many times in one design, like say moving Wally's head. So I failed 3 times, but on the 3rd time, it was the way I wanted it to be. But I didn't let it discourage me. It was like, okay, it's a failure, but you need to say that's a failure and move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much, Mike. This meant so much to me, especially since you're willing and able to give me a second shot at this interview. I call the first one our practice or my practice, but this went great. And
are you sure? I think the first one went better.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Turn the light on.
I appreciate your time so much. So today on our ring finger segment, that's the segment we talk about things that we love. We love them so much that we would do things such as, well, for me, I would collect its hair and keep it under my pillow.
I would clone it.
And I would cyberstalk.
Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff. So today we're going to be talking about giant puppets, and I mean giant. Some of these things are up to 65 feet tall, and they're moved by cranes. I've seen these on a video before, but I didn't realize until we started talking about it that these giant puppet festivals happen all over the world.
Yeah, it's very cool. I feel like seeing it. I haven't seen the giant puppets festivals in person. I don't actually know how I'd feel about that, but I do like the videos of them.
Mm-hmm.
So from a distance, I think they're really, really cool.
Yeah.
And just beautifully made. They look really interesting. They have intricate moving parts, and they're at this giant scale that just leaves me in awe of like how they're manipulated and moved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I first became aware of the giant puppets, but because I'm a puppeteer, people post puppet videos on my Facebook page all the time. And
Right.
sometimes it's the same one over and over again, and after the 5th time, you're like, yes, I have seen this. But these, I always am happy when someone puts one on my wall. And bouncing off something Tanya just said, one of the things I have been most impressed with, because, sometimes they get into detail shots.
Yes.
And one of the puppets, the way they made it walk was there as a whole team of people that would run to the end of something, grab a rope, ride it down, and then go back. And it was the way they were manipulating it was just as fascinating as watching the puppet move itself. And more so in some ways, because it's that kind of hive mind or synchronicity of it is something you see in a lot of smaller puppet manipulations, like Bunraku is a cooperative puppet thing. Any puppets that you see on Sesame Street that are using both of their hands, 2 puppeteers are working them.
Okay.
So it is a thing that happens in smaller puppets as well. And so the manipulation and the cooperation and the team scales up with the size of the puppet, which I just find really fascinating.
And that's one of the things that I find so beautiful about it is that as an artist, I appreciate the artwork. I appreciate the beauty, the realism of these things. They're elegant. And for something so large to move so smoothly the way they do this, but the teamwork involved, these people, like you said it, like a hive mind, but in the most positive way of people really working together to create something so extraordinary and beautiful. There's just so many levels of this that I love.
Yeah, it's almost like machinery, how it all works together. And sometimes they are moved by machine, like with cranes and other things. But the people become, machine-like parts as they work them, and it's all smooth. And I think that's the most amazing, aside from that they're large pieces, is the is how everything works together, like machinery.
The artistry, they're just incredible.
Now, did you guys happen to see the video of the one, there's one I've heard of where it tells a story throughout the city. Like there are two puppets moving through the city, and there are just several different locations, and they interact with each other, and like it tells a whole story.
I haven't seen
Wow.
that.
Do you know what country that's in? Can
No.
you know, but we'll find it.
Yes.
And we'll put it in the show notes, because
Yes.
I definitely want to see that.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I've seen the ones with the animals, and that one, was that with the one in Switzerland with the giant doll, the girl? She was so beautiful. And the way the eyes move, I saw one with the giant horse. Like I said earlier, you know, some of these things are up to 65 feet tall. I mean, that's
very
huge.
big. Yes,
That's
crazy
huge.
huge. Yeah.
And I like what you said about how people, they run and then they're using actually their body weight. They're actually using physics to make these things move. And that's just remarkable to me. You know, I don't know how this was off my radar until only maybe 2 years ago.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not sure how long they've been doing it. So it's possible this is a newer thing, or it's just possible that since it's not being done here in the U.S. yet, you know, you might, if it was just over in many other countries, you might not have seen it until someone was able to do a video and then distribute it widely.
Maybe, you know, now I'm just one of those people, I get an idea and then I got to go check it out. Now I got to check that out. I'm curious, how long has this been going on?
Yeah.
Because you look at some pretty old things, even the time of Leonardo, you know, where there's these things with lots of moving parts and the engineering skills of older cultures.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if at least some form of this has been around for quite some time.
Well, puppetry is a ridiculously old
exactly,
art. I mean,
right?
like it's you know, depending on which styles you're following, you can find them in like every country in the world has pretty much, as far as I'm aware, has like their own sort of style of puppetry that like not as unique necessarily, but that has been going on for a very, very, very long time.
Well, you think
it's an old art form.
One of the most famous that nearly everybody's heard of is Punch and Judy.
Right.
And how many hundreds of years old is that from England, correct?
Right. Oh gosh. Rachel nerds out here. Hardcore. Actually, I don't know enough to nerd out too hardcore, but I know that Punch and Judy also comes from or is related to the Italian Commedia dell'arte tradition, which means it's even older. Like there's several different countries that have kind of their own version of Punch and Judy. So that's also awesome.
Well, we do know that things like dolls and masks for storytelling and for interaction have happened since people have been crafting, basically. So puppets as storytelling vehicles, definitely. I'm very interested, Rachel. I'm wishing that this podcast today was longer, because I actually didn't realize how interested I am in this subject.
Hooray! I love to hear that. But I know specifically there's some islands where they weave shadow puppets out of grasses.
Shadow puppet, that's a whole different type of puppetry.
Whole different type of puppetry, and it's that has a very, very long tradition as well in a lot of countries. So there are just so many different types. We could go on forever and ever.
Well, you know, I do see doing some more research after this, and fortunately we have our Facebook page, and so beyond what we have in our show notes for this episode today, I'm pretty sure you're going to be seeing some interesting things on our Facebook page, on our Jackie's Hand of Horror Facebook page, because there's a lot more to explore on this subject.
Right. And heck, I mean, if you guys have giant puppets that you love or hate and want to show them to us, you can post it on our Facebook page.
Please share. Yeah. Please share, because we can't find everything ourselves. We need your help. So thanks so much. This was great. I really enjoyed this talk today.
Cool.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
All right. hope you enjoyed this episode of Jackie's Hand of Horror. For links and more information on the fun and sometimes horrible things we discuss, please visit us on Facebook at Jackie's Hand of Horror, and that's Jackey with an EY. Thanks again for listening today, and special thanks to the great people who come together to make this podcast possible. My co-host, Tanya Atomic and Rachel Jackson, and also Greg Talley, Ron McAdams, Natalie Ryan, and the rest of the crew at the Revival League podcast. Join us again on February 22nd when we will be celebrating Women in Horror Month. See you then.